Welcome back, everyone. In this video, our goal is to answer some questions that new users typically have upon getting started with landscapes. Now, I did something between videos here to save us a little time. What I did is I went to this build option right here, clicked on this little drop down, and I built lighting. That is calculating the lighting for our landscape. And upon doing so, and it takes a little bit of time, I got this message saying no importance volume found. Now, this freaks out a lot of new users, and they're like, what is this? How do I fix this, etc. So that's why I wanted to bring this up now. Once you see that warning message, what it's asking you to do is to place a light mass importance volume. And you can access this by going under the Volumes tab of your placement mode. And right here is a light mass importance volume. Go ahead and drag this out into your scene. It will be tiny. I'm just going to tap the F key to zoom up on it. And your goal here is to size this up so it surrounds your entire landscape. And the best way to do this is to use your orthographic viewport. So I'm just going to jump to the top orthographic viewport here. And with that light mass importance volume selected, I'm going to zero out the location here. It's going to pop it right in the middle. And I'm going to set my X, Y, and Z to a giant value. Let's go say 70,000 in the X. Let's go bigger than that, 100,000. Not quite sure how big this Seattle environment is. I'll go 150,000 in the X. That surrounds it. You can see that yellow line that I'm looking at right there. So I'll go 150,000 in the Y as well. And for the Z, let's go out of this top view and let's look at a back view, sure. And we can see it's not super tall, and in fact, I want to change the Z height of our landscape here. So I'm going to select our landscape itself, and I'm actually going to move that on up. So it's right about there. Okay, so now I'm going to select my light mass importance volume, and for the Z height, I'll change it to something like, I don't know, 50,000. There we go. Now it surrounds our entire landscape. Now, you should make this nice and snug around it, but this is going to be close enough. What this does is when you go to build your lighting here, it's essentially saying, hey, where do we focus? Where do we want to focus on having nice lighting results? Just in this light mass importance volume area. So now if I was to click here and build lighting only, I would no longer get this message. So that's how you can fix that up. Okay, next question. How do I know how big I should make my landscape? Well, that is not an easy question to answer, but I will do my best. Let me just save my Seattle map here. And I'm going to jump back to my map 01 located in this directory. Double click on that. And here we are back in map 01. Before we do anything, let's delete out our landscape good here, because if you remember right, we created a whole separate map import level file for this. So I'm going to select my landscape good, hit the delete key. We will get rid of that. Now, a good way to test out the size of your landscape is to simply run around inside of it and see if it is what you're looking for. So I'm going to select my player start actor here. It'll select it in the world, and I'm going to lift it up into the air and hit the end key to snap it on down to the ground. Then I'm going to tap the F as in Frank key to zoom up on it so I can see where I'm going to spawn in when I click play. When I click play, this little drop down arrow says where do I want to spawn at the default player start, which means right there. So if I click play, it'll jump me on into my game world, and I can get a pretty good idea as to how big this landscape is. Now, simply run from one end to the other, and that'll give you a pretty good idea as to how big the size is. Now, a few things to keep in mind here, because I don't have any sculpting of my landscape, no hills, no valleys, any of that kind of stuff. So let's talk some Unreal measurements to give you a sense of scale. My man here is about 6 feet tall. He's about 182 or 183 Unreal units tall. Now you can't really see that from here. So what you could do to replicate the size of a 6-foot man is select a geometry tab. Let's add a box brush. And if you simply scale it up in the Z to be 183, And then let's maybe thin it up by setting the brush to be, I don't know, we'll say 25 by 25. We're going to go with the really slender man here. Drag it up into the air, tap that N key. That is about the size of a 6-foot man. And it's right behind me. So there we go. Comparable size right there. You can also use your measure tool in the top orthographic viewport to get a sense of scale. I'm just mouse wheeling back here. And if I hold down the middle mouse button, hold down the middle mouse button, the scroll wheel, and drag, you can see how big my landscape is from end to end. A little over 100,000 Unreal units. Now again, 1 Unreal unit equals 1 centimeter. So 1 mile for all of us Americans here equals 161,000 Unreal units. So this is a little bit less than a mile, square mile in each direction. And you can see down here, there's some measurements that it's trying to help show you as well to give you a sense of scale, which is pretty handy. So my recommendation for how big should you make your landscape? Make a few new landscapes and test them out. Simple as that. Okay, next question that we have here is, can I really not rotate a landscape? By that I mean, when we created a landscape, I showed that you could only kind of rotate it around the x-axis, or I mean the z-axis, meaning that you could sort of spin it around here. And if I select this actor and hit the space bar, I can show you that like that. But after you've created it, you can actually turn a landscape on its side. So if you wanted to, and again, I'm just hitting the space bar here with the landscape actor selected, you could theoretically turn one this way. You could turn it upside down. In fact, if you do turn it all the way upside down, a complete 180, one thing to know about with that is that when you do eventually start sculpting your landscape, which we'll talk about here shortly, your sculpting instructions, your sculpting controls will be reversed. So FYI, keep that in mind. Let me just flip this guy back 180 because I like it like normal. But yeah, I have seen students build out levels where they actually have several landscape actors, and if they kind of want to simulate going through a cave or something like that, they'll actually sandwich 2 landscapes with one being flipped upside down and sculpting it so that there's some undulations that kind of reach all the way down to the floor, kind of like they're in a cavern or something like that. Next question here is, are there any tips for navigating around our landscape faster? This is a pretty big swath of land. What can we do? Well, in the last few videos here, I showed you a key that you could use is changing your camera speed slider right here. If you jack this all the way up to 8, and even you could mess with the scaler too, which I typically don't do. You could increase that. If you then hold down the right mouse button and use the W, A, S, and D keys, you will fly around it much, much faster than if you had this set to, say, 1 and use the W, A, S, and D keys. I am barely moving right now with that set to 1. That is one method. Another method you can use is to set some level bookmarks. And you can set some level bookmarks, that is saving locations around your level to quickly warp to them, by pressing the Control plus any of the number keys. So Control plus 1 will set a bookmark, Control plus 2, Control plus 3, all the way up to Control plus 0. So you've got 10 of those that you can possibly add. And just to quickly demonstrate this, I'm going to place a few objects around here so you can get a sense of where I am at. So I'm just going to place a box down here, and I'm going to scale it up a little bit bigger so I can see this in my landscape. So there is a box, well, more like a slab, if you will. And then I will place, I don't know, a cone out here. And I will also scale this up in size. Hit the end key. And so let's say I wanted to set a level bookmark right here so I could warp to it. So I'm going to do Control plus 1. And now I'm going to move over here and do Control plus 2. So now all I need to do to jump back to my Control plus 1 location is to press the 1 key. And to get to my Control+2 location, I can press the 2 key. Now, if I wanted to make this my Control+1 location, I can hit Control+1 right here. And now if I fly someplace completely different and press the 1 key, I have said that this is my new Control+1 location. So again, Control plus a number key to set a level bookmark, and then just tap the corresponding number key to immediately warp to that location. That's a real handy trick for rapidly navigating to key points around your landscape. All right, guys, there are some quick questions and answers with some landscapes for new users. Hope you found them useful. We will see you all in the next video.